This week, I'm going to respond to a pretty tough email. This is John Sanpetro, and on this episode of the Stamping is My Business podcast, I'm going to read a pretty critical email I received in response to my recent podcast where I made the argument about why recruiting your best customer wasn't the best idea. If you haven't listened to that podcast, you definitely should. It's episode 7. Now, I really appreciated this email. I'm always appreciative of well thought out emails, and this really was well thought out, very well written, and it absolutely deserves a response. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the email in its entirety, and then I'll take the points point by point and respond to them. I'm not going to reveal the person's name who wrote it, but again, let me just say to that person that I really do thank you for taking the time to write it. So here's the email. John, I'm listening to your podcast about how your best customer can be your worst downline. While we all want to earn money from our customers, I feel like it is our job to serve our customers in the best way possible for them. If they are big spenders but are not business-minded, I still feel like they should know about the discount about being a demonstrator. That helps them save money. We should absolutely go over the business opportunity, but if they are not interested, that should be okay. They deserve to know all their options and not have the pressure to sell as part of someone's team. They should absolutely be able to come and pay for classes their upline offers. If the upline's classes are profitable, like you're always telling us, there should be no issue. And if the upline is doing her job, she's always finding and reaching out for new customers anyway to replace this quote-unquote best customer. The upline should continue to offer opportunities for their new downline customer to purchase, just as they had in the past, because that is mutually beneficial. If the upline holds a workshop for the downline, the sales would go to the upline. Most hobbyists that love and support their upline are totally fine with that. It may even be a way to encourage them to try it for themselves with no pressure. The best leaders are concerned for the well-being of their followers, which leads to more trust and loyalty. I understand that you're just, quote, trying to get us paid, but I can't ethically keep the benefits of joining to myself just because I want to keep the commission from a big spending customer. If they have all the information and turn it down because they don't want to be the quote-unquote bargain customer, then that is great for the original demonstrator. I feel that withholding the opportunity is akin to being deceptive and manipulative, especially if not telling them helps me and hurts them. I will continue to be upfront and honest and excited about joining. Those who join under me are under no obligation to perform, but I will continue to encourage and educate them all, hobbyists included. I think this will help all of us in the long run. Again, let me just first say how much I appreciate this email. I've been doing this for a long time. I get a lot of different types of email, as you might imagine, and so I really do appreciate it when somebody takes the time to put their thoughts on paper like this. I'm sure this email took a very long time for them to write, and I really am grateful for it. Now, there's a lot to unpack in this email, and I'm going to do it point by point, and so I hope you'll bear with me. So the email starts, while we all want to earn money from our customers, I feel like it is our job to serve our customers in the best possible way for them. Now, I absolutely agree with that. When I was in sales, I was always looking out for my clients' best interests. Before I hung out my coaching shingle, before I started my own business, I was in sales and marketing. And so, I always wanted to serve my clients in the best way possible. But, and this is really important, I never lost money doing it. I never lost money personally doing it, and I never lost money for my company doing it. My boss, who ran the actual business, whose business it actually was, would never let me, his employee, bring on a new client in a way that would cost the business money. And the use of the word job in this sentence is really interesting because this isn't your job. This is a business, and it's a business that you own. And frankly, I do think a lot of demonstrators forget that. A lot of demonstrators think they work for Stampin' Up. They don't work for Stampin' Up. They are independent contractors to Stampin' Up. They work with Stampin' Up. They're affiliated with Stampin' Up. But in the scenario that I just described, you're not me in that scenario. You're my boss. You're the person who owns and runs the business. And if you're owning a business and if you're running a business, the purpose of that business is not to lose money. And I think we forget that. I think we forget that when we forget what our actual role is and what your actual connection to Stampin' Up is. The email goes on to say, if they are big spenders but are not business-minded, I still feel like they should know about the discount about being a demonstrator. That helps them save money. Yes, it absolutely does. But it costs you money. And I always say, if someone is pushing an idea that costs you money rather than makes you money, don't pursue it. And honestly, I really don't know how to make the argument beyond that point, or if it's even necessary to. But let me give it a shot. Being a demonstrator is not about getting a discount. It's not. If it was, then the business model and your compensation would reflect that. And let me say that again, because I think this is a really, really important point. If getting the discount was what being a demonstrator was about, then the business model and your compensation would reflect that. In other words, you would actually make money for signing people up to get the discount. But you don't. In fact, you lose money. You lose a lot of money. And so, I'm not really trying to make my case. I think the business model simply does that already. I don't know how to make, I don't know what I can say beyond that. I don't know if it's even necessary to say anything beyond that. The email goes on to say, we should absolutely go over the business opportunity, but if they're not interested, that should be okay. They deserve to know all their options and not have pressure to sell as part of someone's team. They should absolutely be able to come and pay for classes their upline offers. Again, on this point, respectfully, I disagree. The business model that you're a part of, that you have signed on to, rewards you for selling and rewards you for recruiting others who sell. And if someone isn't interested in the business opportunity, then they're not interested in this business model. And here's where the problem happens. When you try to subvert this model by creating what is essentially like a gold card discount program, you're not only subverting the business model, but you're subverting your own business. Because again, you've already bought into this business model. Your success depends on the successful execution of this business model. So when you're doing what you're talking about doing, what you're simply doing is working against yourself. So why do demonstrators do this? Honestly, I think it's because a lot of them don't have faith in themselves and or faith in the business model. Which brings me to the next part of the email. The email goes on to say, if the upline's classes are profitable, like you're always telling us, then there should be no issue. And if the upline is doing her job, she's always finding and reaching out for new customers anyway to replace this best customer. I wish that were true, but it's just not. First, the more you have to replace customers, the slower your business grows. What you need to be doing is cumulatively adding to your customer base, not just maintaining the baseline number. So the more people you have to replace over and over and over again, the longer it's going to take to cumulatively add to your base. Second, I really do believe one of the big reasons so many stamping business owners do this gets back to what I was saying a moment ago, a lack of faith in themselves and a lack of faith in the business model. They're not doing this with the intention of replacing that customer. They're doing this specifically because they don't want to lose this customer. They're afraid that if they establish too many boundaries between what a customer gets and what a downline gets, they'll lose the customer. And so they try to keep the customer and kind of have the best of both worlds. The email goes on. I understand you're just trying to get us paid, but I can't ethically keep the benefits of joining to myself just because I want to keep the commission from a big spending customer. I feel that withholding the opportunity is akin to being deceptive and manipulative, especially if not telling them helps me and hurts them. Again, I agree. I don't think you should keep the opportunity from them. Because honestly, I think if you presented the actual opportunity, you'd be surprised at how many people took you up on it. What I do think, though, is that you should have clear boundaries and benefits between customers and downline. Similar, quite frankly, to the boundaries and benefits your company has in place to distinguish between customers and demonstrators. I always say, if you don't want to listen to me, just follow the model that your company sets forth. It's not about keeping the commission on a big spending customer. You shouldn't do this for big spending customers or small spending customers. It's not about that. It's about honoring the business model you signed up for. I would never advise you to withhold the opportunity from anyone. But I do think you need to be clear with them and yourself about what the opportunity actually is. The email goes on. Those who join me are under no obligation to perform, but I will continue to encourage and educate them all, hobbyists included. I think this will help all of us in the long run. Those who join me are under no obligation to perform. I have to be honest. I don't even know where to go with that. It's just one of those sentences you never expect to hear in business. I mean, can you imagine any professional scenario where someone would say that to you? You're under no obligation to perform. How could you run a successful business if that were the case? And saying that also, quite frankly, means you're holding your downline to a far lower standard than your company is holding them to. Your company makes them meet a minimum quarterly amount in order to remain a demonstrator, but it just doesn't matter to the company whether they buy that minimum or sell it, because the company makes the same amount of money either way. Unfortunately, that cannot be said for you. Look, this is a huge problem in this niche. And as someone who's been working with stamping business owners in this industry for the past 20 years, I can assure you that this has not been helpful in the long run. Quite the opposite. I appreciate this email, and I appreciate you taking the time to write it. I hope this has helped all of you, and I hope that you take this commentary as it was given with a deep and profound respect and affection for each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this episode of the Stamping is My Business podcast, please feel free to like it, share it, subscribe to it, and listen to more. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, our website, stampingismybusiness.com, and on our Facebook page, facebook.com/stampingismybusiness. If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, please email them to me at john@stampingismybusiness.com. This is John San Pietro. and I'm just trying to get you paid.